Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for another episode of Healthzone with Gilbert Cheah. I'm Gilbert Cheah, I am the editor of Healthzone Singapore, a Facebook page that's dedicated to covering health and wellness, specifically from a Singapore and regional perspective. So last week, I shared with you guys what it was like for me turning 60 years old and some of the important tips that I have learned along the years to look good and to feel good. And last week I shared 3 important health and wellness tips that everybody, regardless of age, should follow in order to reach the age of 60 and beyond, being as healthy and vibrant as possible. So this week in part 2, I will share the other 3 tips for a total of 6 things that you should do to be fit and fabulous at 60 and beyond. Let's get right down to it. Tip number 4, because last week we had tip number 1, 2, and 3. Tip number 4 is move, move, move. What do I mean by this? We all know that exercise is so important for health, but it gets more difficult as we get older, especially if we were never the active types when we were younger to begin with. Aches and pains, joint and muscle problems, weaker hearts and lungs are common and can stop many of us from exercising. But this has a spiraling down effect, as the lack of exercise itself will cause even more problems to develop. For the seniors, I will say this: do not spend most of your day sitting still watching TV. Just because you're retired from work does not mean you're retired from the world. Sitting for long periods of time has been linked to many health problems, including weight gain, increased body fat around the waist, high blood pressure and higher blood sugar, swollen feet, and many other ailments. Too much sitting overall and prolonged periods of sitting can also increase the risk of death from cardiovascular disease and cancer. Now, the good news is that exercise does not need to be vigorous and tiring for it to be beneficial. If you can do a vigorous exercise, that's great, as it is important for cardiovascular health. But if you can't, don't just stay still and sit on your sofa. Studies show that even mild exercise, such as a 30-minute walk a few times a week, has many health benefits for the body, mind, and mood. The more you can walk, the better it is. But don't let the inability to exercise vigorously stop you from exercising at all. Studies have shown that if people take at least 4,000 steps a day, even if it's just ambling around the block, the chance of dying from heart disease, cancer, and many other causes drops by as much as 50% or more. Whatever your age, make movement and being active a way of life. We are all creatures of habit, and developing a habit of activity and movement is something that will bring you many benefits as you get older. In addition to staying active by moving and walking, one other physical activity that's very beneficial is weight training, also known as strength training, and I highly recommend this. Many people wrongly assume that weightlifting is about bulking up and getting big muscles, but this is not accurate. As its name suggests, strength training will build up your strength and strengthen your muscles, which is very important at any age, but especially so as we get older. Among the many benefits of weightlifting or strength training includes greater muscle and bone strength, improved balance and posture, which is so important for older adults in helping to prevent falls, better sleep, weight loss, higher metabolism, lower inflammation, and many more. In addition, strength training also helps reduce the risk of osteoporosis and lessens the symptoms of heart disease, arthritis, and diabetes, while also reducing depression. Lifting weights offers us so many benefits that experts say everyone who is able to should train with weights. You're never too old for this. Even my 92-year-old mom trains with weights and resistant bands every week. I myself have been strength training and going to the gym regularly for over 30 years, and this has definitely helped me so much in so many ways. But regardless of age, I would recommend strength training to be a regular part of your exercise routine. By building up your strength, muscles, and bones, you're not only making yourself healthier and more fit in the present, you are also storing up reserves as you get older. It's like putting money into a health bank, which you can withdraw when you're older. Tip number 5 that I have for you is sleep more. It's very simple. We all need to sleep as much as we need. Now, notice I said as much as we need, not as much as we want, because too much sleep can be as bad as too little. And people who oversleep are at higher risk for chronic diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, anxiety, and obesity. So, what is too much sleep? Unless you're a baby, 10 hours a night or more is too much. If you sleep between 8 to 10 hours a night and still wake up feeling tired, it's very likely you have some underlying health problem and you should seek medical help. For most people, however, it's more likely that they are not getting enough sleep, and this brings a variety of health problems too. I did a whole show that I devoted to sleep, so I won't get too much into detail here, but a few things to highlight. One is that we all need to prioritize sleep, because if we don't recognize how important it is and how much damage the lack of sleep does to our bodies, we will never take the necessary steps to make sure we get enough. Many people think of sleep as a luxury, while it is really a necessity for health, and not getting enough can contribute to many health problems, including serious ones such as dementia, strokes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. Secondly, many of us will find good sleep to be a challenge as we get older. According to researchers, over 40% of older adults suffer from sleep problems, including difficulty falling asleep, light sleep, frequent waking in the night, and daytime fatigue. Many older people also experience a decrease in deep sleep stage and an increase in periods of waking up throughout the night. Don't worry if you're experiencing this, as it's so common among older adults and even among younger people. I would highly recommend taking melatonin, which is a natural sleep hormone that our bodies produce. Children and babies have a lot of melatonin in their systems, which is why they sleep easily. But as we get older, our bodies produce less and we also become less sensitive to it. It's important to take the sublingual variety, which is the kind that dissolves under your tongue, instead of the type that you swallow with water. The sublingual pill gets into your bloodstream directly instead of having to go through your stomach and liver, so it's much more effective and fast acting. If you find yourself waking up tired even after having a full night's sleep, it's possible that you have sleep apnea, and this is a serious medical issue that requires help. Do watch the episode I did on sleep and get the resources that I mentioned in that show, because sleep is so important to manage your health and to manage your youthfulness as you get older. Point number 6, which is very important, is manage stress. There are many factors that affect our health and longevity, and some factors have a much bigger effect than others. One of the obvious ones that shortens lifespan is smoking, for example. Studies show that on average, smoking shortens a person's lifespan by about 6.6 years. And of course, aside from the shorter lifespan, smoking also causes years of suffering and sickness before death. But there are other less obvious lifestyle factors that shorten lifespans. And one of this is stress. Heavy stress actually shortens lifespans by an average of 3 years. But the real effects of stress on health are far-reaching and very serious. Now, obviously everyone has stress in their lives, but most people have learned a variety of skills and techniques to cope with it. However, some people suffer from chronic stress, which is different from situational stress. In situational stress, there is a specific trigger event, and once the situation is resolved or has passed, the stress subsides. For example, if we are facing a job interview, an exam, a car accident, or giving a big speech, that's situational stress. But in chronic stress, there's long-term life circumstances or an inability to handle them, and this contributes to a state of constant upset and distress. Scientists believe that our bodies were not meant to be in this state of constant stress, and it causes a lot of damage to numerous body systems. Many diseases are linked to chronic stress, including high blood pressure, heart disease, strokes, diabetes, and depression. Stress also lowers our immunity, which makes us even more susceptible to sickness. In addition to these major health issues, chronic stress can also damage superficial things like our skin, our hair, and even our teeth because of unconscious teeth grinding, for example. You've often heard people say that when someone has undergone a very stressful period, they seem to have aged quickly, and there is certainly truth to this. No matter what your age, it's crucial that you learn to manage stress. Notice I didn't say get rid of stress, which is almost impossible. But managing stress is not just very possible, it's also very essential. Now, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of ways to manage stress, so obviously, I won't go into detail here. But the first step is to understand that stress is not just an unpleasant sensation that we have to endure, it's also a threat to your health and longevity. So therefore, managing it should be a priority for everybody. One of the most effective ways of managing and alleviating stress is exercise. Multiple studies around the world have proven that exercise relieves stress in many different and effective ways. It causes your brain to release endorphins, which are powerful chemicals that improve mood and feelings of well-being. It relaxes the muscles, which get tense from stress, and helps lower the stress hormone cortisol, which in excess has damaging effects on the body. It calms the mind, which gives you the chance to relieve the mental stress and perhaps approach your problems with a fresh perspective. It will also help you sleep better, which is so crucial to overall health, as we just said. And it also helps digestion, which is so commonly affected by stress. In effect, stress helps in two big ways. One, it reduces the negative impact of the stress on your body and mind. And two, it helps you better manage the stress itself by lowering your stress levels. As I mentioned earlier when I was talking about keeping active, you do not need to do strenuous exercise to relieve stress. In fact, almost any form of exercise, from the fast pace like running and swimming to the slow and steady such as yoga or tai chi, can effectively relieve stress. And you do not need to exercise for long periods either. Even a little exercise goes a long way towards stress management. Meditation is another very effective and beneficial method. And even Singapore's late minister mentor Lee Kuan Yew practiced this and said he found it beneficial. And we know he definitely faced a lot of stress in his life. Now, there are obviously many other effective ways to manage stress, and we all need to find what works for us. What's important is that we take action to manage our stress and not just to accept it as an inevitability. Chronic stress is very damaging to our well-being, and the good news is it can be managed. As a wise person once said, we cannot control circumstances, but we can control how we react to them. And that really does make a difference. So there you have it, the 3 from this week and the 3 from last week, making a grand total of 6 very important things that you, regardless of age, need to do to really prepare yourself for getting older, for staying healthy, fit, and vibrant when you are older. Age is just a number. What's much more important is your physical, mental, and emotional condition. And take it from me, as I said it before, being 60 can be pretty fabulous. Stay healthy, stay well. Do leave us your comments. Share this video, please, with people who need it more than you, perhaps. Other seniors, people approaching seniorhood, and stay healthy. Thanks for joining us for this episode, and tune in again next week for another episode of Healthzone with Gilbert Cheah.